Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsbrowse News broadcast. The Canadian press reports that Argentina's Congress has approved a controversial bill championed by Libertarian President Javier Milei, which significantly eases protections for glaciers. The legislation, also passed by the Senate in February, aims to attract over $30 billion in mining investments, primarily for copper, gold, and silver projects over the next decade. Environmental organizations, including Greenpeace and the Environment and Natural Resources Foundations, strongly oppose the measure and plan to launch a class action lawsuit. They argue the reform is unconstitutional and threatens Argentina's vital water resources, particularly in arid regions, and the delicate glacial ecosystems already vulnerable to climate change. The previous 2010 law banned all mining in glaciers and periglacial zones. The new bill narrows this, allowing provinces to determine which specific hydrological functions merit protection. NBC News reports the United States and Iran have agreed to a temporary 2-week ceasefire effective Wednesday. President Donald Trump announced the deal, suspending U.S. attacks on Iran, with Iran's Supreme National Security Council agreeing to halt defensive operations to finalize a peace deal. However, the exact terms remain unclear due to conflicting public statements. Iran's 10-point proposal, which seeks Strait of Hormuz control and U.S. troop withdrawal, clashes with America's 15-point plan, particularly on nuclear enrichment. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and President Trump maintain Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. Further complicating matters, Israel, a U.S. ally, stated its truce excludes Lebanon and continued heavy bombardment there, contradicting Iranian claims. Pakistan, Egypt, and China facilitated these fragile negotiations, described as extremely shaky and brittle. Both sides claim victory, but a lasting peace agreement is uncertain. Talks are set to begin Friday in Islamabad. Unconfirmed by the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, affirmed U.S. forces would remain in the region and reiterated demands for Iran to hand over enriched uranium. CBS News reports that Israel's ongoing conflict in Lebanon has emerged as a significant point of contention regarding President Trump's recently announced 2-week ceasefire with Iran. The U.S. and Israel publicly disagree with Iran and Pakistan over whether Lebanon is part of the truce. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Saeed Khatibzadeh asserted that sweeping Israeli attacks in Lebanon constituted a grave violation of the agreement, demanding the U.S. choose between war and ceasefire. Pakistan's Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif, who brokered the deal, also stated that the ceasefire included Lebanon and elsewhere. However, the White House and Israel maintained that Lebanon was never part of the agreement. President Trump described Israel's actions as a separate skirmish, and Vice President J.D. Vance called it a reasonable misunderstanding. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed his insistence that Hezbollah not be included in the temporary ceasefire, adding that Israel would pursue direct negotiations with Lebanon to disarm Hezbollah and establish peaceful relations. Despite ongoing Israeli strikes and casualties in Lebanon, Iran stated it remains focused on reaching a final agreement, while Israel continues operations until its northern communities are safe. The Strait of Hormuz remains another key issue, with Iran linking safe passage to U.S. aggression withdrawal. UPI reports that the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, BEA, has revised its estimate for the fourth quarter of 2025 GDP growth, reducing it from 0.7% to 0.5%. This downward adjustment largely stems from a slower-than-expected rate of investment, particularly in private inventory within wholesale trade, as indicated by updated U.S. Census Bureau data. The report, initially slated for March 27th, was delayed due to a government shutdown in the previous October and November, while some sectors, including wholesale trade, information services, and healthcare, saw gains contributing to real value added. These were offset by declines in federal government contributions and non-durable goods manufacturing. Overall, private service-producing industries achieved a 2.3% increase in real value added, contrasting with a 7.8% decrease from the federal government. 35 states recorded GDP gains, with North Dakota leading at 3.8%, while the District of Columbia experienced an 8.3% decrease. Personal incomes also saw declines in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.